Bomo kar začeli. Ja, dober dan in lepo pozdravljeni torej na spletni delavnici Upravljanje mestne logistike. Dobrodošli in hvala še v imenu organizatorjev, ker ste se nam danes pridružili na naši drugi spletni delavnici. Sem Tatjana Milovanovič in bom povezovala dogodek ter skrbela za to, da boste dobili dovolj informacij o poteku delavnice same in odgovore tudi na vaša vprašanja. Da me pa boste lažje razumeli, bom zdaj masko sceno začasno snela. Torej, danes imamo na sporedu 4 predavanja, na 3 bodo tuji predavatelji, zato mi dopustite, da jih vse še na kratko pozdravim tudi v angleščini. A warm hello to all our guest speakers at the Urban Logistics Management Workshop. On behalf of the organizers, I would like to thank you for joining us today at our second online workshop and for taking the time to tell us more about your field of expertise. If you'll permit, I'll just quickly go through some technical details with our participants before we begin our lectures. This part will be in Slovenian. Torej, delavnico tudi tokrat organiziramo preko spletnega orodja Zoom. Verjamem, da smo zdaj že vsi z njim dodobra seznanjeni. Nekateri ste morda že opazili, vaši mikrofoni so zdaj ugasnjeni, to pa je zato, da lahko to, kar bodo današnji predavatelji povedali, vsi sodelujoči jasno slišimo. Tako da zaenkrat jih lepo prosim pustite na tiho, kot v oktobrski delavnici, pa boste tudi tokrat imeli priložnost danes povedano predebatirati v drugem delu, ko se bomo razdelili v 2 skupini, ki jih boste vodili gospa Andreja Kuzmanič in gospa Mateja Kukovec. Ker pa bodo tudi na tokratni delavnici sodelovali današnji predavatelji, bo ta potekala v angleščini. Če bi bilo komu lažje, lahko seveda v klepet pošljete vprašanje v slovenščini tekom diskusije, v tem primeru ga bomo prevedli in potem predebatirali. Tekom diskusije boste imeli mikrofone vklopljene, te boste vklopili s klikom na ikono levo spodaj. V tem prvem delu pa bo lažje, če kot omenjeno uporabite klepet. Urnika se bomo držali, tisti, ki ga nimate pri sebi, lahko do njega dostopate v klepetu, kamor smo objavili urnik. Kamere po lastni izbiri. Bi vas pa na tej točki prosila, da jih vsaj zdaj na kratko malo prižgete, tisti, ki jih še niste, da lahko naši organizatorji posnamejo en hiter zajem zaslona, vklopite pa jo s klikom na ikono kamere levo spodaj. No, dokler Astrid naredi zajem zaslona in prižgete kamere, sedemo malo gret. Ne vem, če poznate tegale, ampak stojita 2 konja pred prehodom za pešce, pa pravi eden drugemu, evo, zelena, greva čez, pa odgovarja drugi, ma si normalen, glej, kaj se je zgodilo zebri. Ja, no, ta je taka lušna, od zelenega pa do urbanizma ima. Mislim, da je Astrid že uspel narediti zajem zaslona. Štima, super. Super, hvala vsem, naše kamere so in bodo prižgane, sicer pa bo, lepo bo, če jih tudi vi pustite prižgane, bo tudi bolj interaktivno, pa lepše, če se vidimo. Naj vas na tej točki še spomnim, da bo kakovost slike in zvoka boljša, če ste povezani preko kabla in ne brezžično, vseeno je stabilnejša povezava, če je mogoče, torej toplo priporočam, da ste povezani preko kabla. Tu sta tudi Anja in Astrid, naša tehnična podpora z zavoda Vozim, ki pa bosta skrbela za to, da bo vse, kot je treba. Če bi kljub temu kaj šlo narobe, bi se zalomilo in bi pri katerem od predavateljev ostali brez signala, smo za varovalo posneli tudi video vseh predavanj, tako da brez skrbi v tem primeru bom skočila jaz in bomo kar se da hitro potem nadaljevali. Na pomembna vprašanja oziroma obvestila vas bomo opozorila, navodila in povezave bomo zapisali tudi v klepet. Če imate torej še kakšno vprašanje, ga prosim zapišite in nekdo od nas bo nanj odgovoril. Bomo v tokratnih predavanjih izvedli tudi kakšno anketo, dajmo še tole stestirati. Smo? Malce bomo počakali, da se objavi. Zaenkrat izgleda, imamo malce težav pri izvedbi ankete. Je pa res, da je najpomembnejši del te delavnice razprava, ki pa bo delovala. Če se vam med predavanji porodi kakšno vprašanje, kot omenjeno, ga prosim zapišite v chat oziroma klepet. Po predavanjih oziroma po vsakem predavanju bomo imeli čas za 1 do 2 vprašanji, ostala pa bomo odgovorili oziroma predebatirali kasneje, natančneje ob 12:30, ko ste tudi vljudno vabljeni v prej omenjeni diskusiji, za katere pa boste dobili povezavi že pred odmorom, o tem bom več razložila kasneje. Brez zadržkov, prosim, tako da kar vprašajte, če kaj ni jasno. Vprašanja, ki bodo namenjena našim tujim predavateljem, lahko seveda zapišete v slovenščini ali angleščini, kakor vam je ljubše, in bodo potem prevedena in jih bomo postavili. Tudi v primeru izpada signala lahko vprašanja govorcem kljub temu postavite. Če se to zgodi, bomo vprašanja in odgovore zbrali potem v skupen dokument, ki ga bomo potem poslali vam vsem v najkrajšem možnem času po zaključku delavnice. In če govorimo o današnjih govorcih, te bo danes predstavila Mateja Kukovec, ki je zaposlena v podjetju Zoom, kjer je odgovorna za prometno planiranje v okviru priprave prostorskih aktov in izvajanja projektov s področja trajnostne mobilnosti. Gospa Kukovec, predajam vam besedo.
Pozdravljeni vsi skupaj. Preden predstavim predavatelje, še nekaj besed o projektu, v okviru katerega organiziramo to delavnico. To je integralni projekt LIFE CARE4CLIMATE, pri katerem je partner tudi naše podjetje Zoom d.o.o. In v okviru tega projekta sodelujemo z vodenjem aktivnosti povezanih z razvojem zelene logistike na nacionalnem in lokalnem nivoju. V oktobru smo že izvedli eno delavnico na spletu na temo razvoj sistema zelene logistike, ki pa se je osredotočala bolj na aktivnosti povezanih z razvojem oziroma z izvajanjem ukrepov upravljanja logistike na državni ravni. Na današnji delavnici se bomo pa osredotočili na upravljanje logistike v mestnih območjih. Današnji predavatelji prihajajo iz 4 držav. Kot prvi Gregor Steklačič je zaposlen na Ministrstvu za infrastrukturo, na Direktoratu za trajnostno mobilnost in prometno politiko, ki je med drugim posredniški organ za izvajanje evropske kohezijske politike na področju trajnostne mobilnosti. Prioritetno pokriva področje kolesarstva, tako od strateškega do izvedbenega dela v okviru priprave paketa nacionalnih smernic za različna področja trajnostne mobilnosti, kot so prometna politika, mobilnostni načrti, celostne prometne strategije, pa je zadolžen za zeleno mestno logistiko. Drugi predavatelj, Kristjan Nussmüller, prihaja iz Avstrije, je vodja enote za evropske programe in mednarodno sodelovanje v mestu oziroma v občini Gradec. Z evropskimi in nacionalnimi sredstvi spodbujajo izvajanje lokalnih in nacionalnih urbanističnih projektov, v katere je integrirana tudi trajnostna mobilnost. Svojo enoto kot vodja on razume kot pospeševalca inovativnega in integriranega urbanega razvoja ter kot pobudnika prenosa strokovnega znanja in krepitve zmogljivosti. Mark Degenkamp prihaja iz Nizozemske, je strateški svetovalec za mobilnost nizozemskega mesta Zaanstad, ki se nahaja v neposredni bližini Amsterdama. Odgovoren je za novo vizijo mobilnosti Zaanstada, ki vključuje tudi upravljanje mestne logistike. Tudi v prejšnji službi to je bilo v mestu Utrecht, je bil odgovoren za upravljanje mestne logistike in ima tudi široko znanje na področju evropskega sodelovanja. In zadnji predavatelj, Gary Armstrong iz Velike Britanije, je neodvisen svetovalec, ki zadnjih 10 let sodeluje pri implementaciji tovornih koles v zasebnem in javnem sektorju. Deluje tudi kot vodja usposabljanja pri Evropski federaciji kolesarske logistike in redno predava in vodi spletne seminarje o tem, kako se lahko in kako se uporabljajo tovorna kolesa.
Hvala, gospa Kukovec. Zdaj, ko smo seznanjeni s predavatelji, pa besedo predajam našemu prvemu, ravnokar predstavljenemu govorcu, Gregorju Steklačiču z Direktorata za trajnostno mobilnost in prometno politiko Ministrstva za infrastrukturo, ki bo pa, kot omenjeno, govoril o aktivnostih na področju zelene mestne logistike v Sloveniji. Se slišimo? Pozdravljeni.
Pozdravljeni, zdaj se pa slišimo, prosim. Kaj ne? Pozdravljeni, me slišite zdaj?
Ja, mislim, da bo
Ok, no dobro. Kot me že Mateja predstavlja, moje ime je Gregor Steklačič iz Ministrstva za infrastrukturo, in danes bom na kratko predstavil pravzaprav, kaj so aktivnosti, ki jih naše ministrstvo oziroma vsaj naš direktorat na tem področju izvaja. Ampak v začetku pa bi mogoče, ki so pravzaprav sploh izhodišča, da smo do tega prišli, no? Da se tudi zeleno mestno logistiko oziroma trajnostno logistiko začne uvajati v sisteme v mestih in poskušati narediti neke spremembe na tem področju. Ti podatki, ki jih zdaj predstavljam, pravzaprav veljajo za raven Evropske unije, ampak verjamemo, da v Sloveniji kaj dosti drugače to ni. Bistvo je, da se 80% postankov oziroma ustavitev vozil pri dostavi izvede na nezakonitih parkirnih mestih, to bomo tudi kasneje videli, ko imam nekaj slikovnega gradiva, da je 60% dostav traja manj kot 5 minut, zelo malo dostav pa traja več kot 20 minut oziroma preko pol ure, kar pomeni, da to so zelo kratki in zaradi tega tudi pride do tistega, formalno ali neformalno nekako priznanega, da lahko nekdo, ki dostavlja, parkira na nezakonitih mestih, no, čeprav to se moramo zavedati, da to ni rešitev. Dejstvo je tudi, da če pelje tovornjak, da ga nadomestimo, je potrebnih 8 majhnih dostavnih vozil oziroma nekih kombijev v tem smislu ali nekaj primerljivega. Ključni dodatni izzivi, ki pa izhajajo, kaj so pravzaprav problemi mestne logistike, ne? Prostor je v mestu omejen, tovorni promet uporablja ogromno tega prostora v mestu. Tukaj govorimo glede na to, da je tudi dostikrat v pogonu in cel čas in stoji in je zelo veliko, na samih površinah prometnih. Odstotka sta zelo visoko, to pomeni, gre gor proti 1/3 časa in prostora, ki ga tukaj nujno. Dejstvo je, da imamo mestni tovorni promet oziroma ta mestna logistika, ki nekako imenujemo, predstavlja 10 do 20% vsega cestnega prometa v mestih. Kar pomeni to, da mi dobimo odobrine, terja kar veliko, ozadju nekega prometa in zasedanja prostorov spet. Zadnja milja, to pomeni last mile, je enako 10 do 20% in če bomo to potem primerjali z odstotkom deleža gospodarske dejavnosti, je to potem pomeni približno 0,5% do 1% pravzaprav celotnega BDP-ja predstavlja pravzaprav ta strošek zadnje milje dostave. Zelo veliko emisij prispeva mestna logistika, zdaj govorimo samo znotraj mesta, no, zato ker to vozila so ta trenutek jasno imajo močnejši pogon, večje emisije, hrup, ker so potem večji talni upor, pride tudi 40% za onesnaženja z hrupom. In če govorimo za malo prihodnost, je, da bo v prihodnosti ogromno energije povezanih z porabe energije povezanih z prevozom tovora in da se bo še vedno, še vedno bo tovorni promet naraščal in recimo za naslednjih 10 let bo to 60% tega še več. Zaradi tega je dejstvo, da bo potrebno nekako ukrepati in tudi to usmerjati oziroma upravljati. Na kratko, kaj pomeni logistika znotraj našega ministrstva. Prvi izziv imamo to, da se logistika deli med 2 direktorata. Realno smo z vidika državljanom vidni kot eno ministrstvo, kot eno pač upravo, ampak še vedno pač dva direktorata, ki imata včasih tudi malce drugačno politiko, in direktorat za kopenski promet predstavlja oziroma pač je pristojen za logistiko na ravni države, govorimo zdaj pač jasno železnice, medkrajevni tovorni promet, meddržavni promet, to pomeni pač te večinoma, če temu rečemo, na glavnih državnih cestah. Potem med drugim smo pa na drugi strani zdaj z ustanovitvijo pred nekaj leti direktorata za trajnostno mobilnost in prometno politiko ta del last mile oziroma pač mestne logistike prevzeli na direktoratu za trajnostno mobilnost. In kjer imamo pač tudi jasno trajnostno mobilnost kot naša osnovna vizija, se včasih pač jasno je malo v nasprotju z politiko, ki pač jo želi voditi tudi gospodarstvo. No. Kot sem že prej rekel, BDP, logistika je pomembna panoga, v Evropi dosega celo 7% BDP-ja, recimo določenih držav, v Sloveniji je to recimo 5,6 po podatkih iz leta 2018. Če bi tukaj mogoče rekli, kakšno je to letošnje leto, je gotovo tukaj verjetno bistven porast, no, ker in kolikor se bo to pač nadaljevalo, bo verjetno šlo pač preko 10%, verjamem, da je v letošnjem letu, in glede na rast prometa pač tovora, je pa tudi pač dejstvo, da se bo ta odstotek v prihodnje še pač večal. Zdaj, samih podatkov za mestno logistiko v Sloveniji pač ne obstajajo, ne? Nimamo podatkov, koliko pač BDP tu prispeva, ampak če rečemo tisto, kar sem že prej rekel, 10 do 20% gospodarske panoge, pomeni pač približno 0,5% do 1%, tam nekje pač je BDP-ja pač pravzaprav pride iz tega, da se v znotraj mest opravlja pravzaprav dostava tovora. Tukaj, ko zdaj pač pravzaprav mi izvajamo pač projekt zelene mestne logistike oziroma pač javno naročilo za pripravo nacionalnih smernic, pridemo do enega zelo pač zanimivega vprašanja, kaj pravzaprav res tisto je ta mestna logistika, pa zakaj jo zdaj hočemo samo mestno logistiko imeti kot zeleno oziroma pač zdaj ali besedo trajnostno, ali zdaj, če gremo naprej z strateškimi dokumenti, ali želimo upravljati. No. Tukaj se znotraj projekta, v katerem zdaj jaz sodelujem, pa je tudi, bom rekel, Zoom vključen, prihajamo res do pač izziva, kaj pomeni mestna logistika, je to zdaj last mile delivery, ali je to zdaj na področju samo zaprtih con, kjer je prepoved prometa in da se samo tam lahko pač upravlja logistiko. Kot sem pač prej rekel, zdaj tu pač primeri so, rekel, mogoče, ker vsi poznamo, zemljevidi so za Ljubljano, ali je to zdaj na ravni mesta, da se pač upravlja, ali če gremo še malo širše, no, ali je to zdaj pač na ravni funkcionalnega urbanega območja, ki pa v Sloveniji niso pač fiksno določeni. No. To je eden od prvih izzivov, ki jih je potrebno rešiti, in tudi projekt, na katerem zdaj Zoom sodeluje, na tem LIFE CARE4CLIMATE, je zelo pomembno, kaj se določi kot tisto območje, kjer želimo, rekel, strateško upravljati. Z vidika izvedbe projektov, na katerih pač zdaj jaz sodelujem, smo nekako prišli, da v Sloveniji je ta trenutek to najbolj realno, da se pač lotimo upravljanja, kjer se v določenem delu upravlja, so to mestna središča, kjer je omejen dostop za nekimi odloki o prometnih ureditvah. Pač, če gremo na levo zgoraj, je pač mestno središče Ljubljane z grajskim hribom, na drugi strani mogoče imamo tudi Ptuj, ker to sta oba dva pač pilota, ki sta v našem projektu. Zelo bistveno se pa nam zdi, da pravzaprav bi mestno logistiko oziroma to last mile delivery urejali tudi v nekih zaprtih turističnih območjih, sploh v času sezone. Tukaj je Piran en zelo tak izrazit, ker ima dostop pravzaprav samo po enem prometnem koridorju, če vzamemo vse dostope pač po morju, no, in logistika se pač po morju zelo slabo izvaja v samem Piranu, torej upravljanje bi bilo potrebno tudi tam, ne? Zelo pomembno, kako se to pač dostopa. Na drugi strani so pa zdaj mestna središča dodatno zapirajo, primer desno spodaj je Novo mesto, ki je v lanskem letu, bom rekel, ta glavni trg zaprl in se pač sooča tudi z temi izzivi, kako bo urejal logistiko v samem mestnem središču, zdaj ko pač jasno so neki prometne omejitve za vstopa. Zdaj, prvo stereotip, ki bi ga mogoče rad ločil, je, da v Sloveniji pač tega problema ni. No. Menimo, da na ministrstvu pač menimo, da je. Zdaj, časovna okna, ki so določena za dostavo, v tistem času potem res pride ogromno vozil, bom rekli, temu pravimo kar nekako izziv belih kombijev, ki parkirajo pravzaprav ravno tisto, kar sem prej rekel, na površinah, ki so tudi za druge udeležence in ovirajo, bom rekel, najprej sami sebe med seboj, no, ker pač zaparkirajo dostope, na drugi strani pač omejujejo prehodnost za pešce, ker je to pač peš cona, in tudi jasno kolesarje, ki pač lahko to cono uporabljajo. Tudi recimo sama slovenska pač ulica v Ljubljani se v jutranjem času pač zelo veliko izkorišča za to, bom rekel, dostavo. Na drugi strani imamo samo mestno središče, ki je potem v rush houru, bom rekel, za to dostavo, je pač izgleda nekako takole, ali če se obrnemo mogoče malo pač na drugo stran, pač imamo realno pač sliko takole. No. Da, to je mestno središče. Potem je drugi stereotip, da to je problem samo v mestnem središču. Ne. Če gledamo spet nekaj pač fotografskega gradiva izven centra same mesta Ljubljana, ne, dobimo tudi pač take primere. Ne. Realno je parkiral na nelegalnem mestu, zato da je na hitro dostav, pač jasno, pač logisti so čim bolj učinkoviti, bliže kot parkirajo, ne. To je njihovo, bom rekel, neko prioriteta, vendar se moramo zavedati, da s tem ovirajo prost pretok, pač recimo tukaj čisto na pločniku pravzaprav zaparkira in mora iti pešec pravzaprav po kolesarki, in zdaj, če pridemo do primera, da je bila pač pešec in kolesar sočasno, ne vem, kam bi se umaknil kolesar, poletno na cesto potem. Spet malo izven mestnega središča, zaprtega, no, v Ljubljani, Miklošičeva cesta, ne, dostava spet na pač prostoru, ki je namenjen za druge prometne načine, nekako se dopušča vedno ta mentaliteta v Sloveniji, ki je, moramo dopustiti, da pač avto se z avtomobilom lahko pride mimo mene, vsi ostali pač so pa toliko fleksibilni pešci pa kolesari, da bojo že najdli pač nek obvoz. No. To realno moramo reči, da izziv, kako se bo to urejalo, je pač precejšen. Primer dostave na mestno tržnico, pač na ta centralno tržnico v Ljubljani, no, v jutranjem času pač je pravzaprav ta dostava se tukaj le vrši, zaparkirajo pač, bom rekel, dostavna vozila en drugega in potem se pač jasno čaka, da se pač mesto sprazni, da se sploh lahko zamenjajo in da uporabljajo dostavo. Ali, bom rekel, pred samim našim ministrstvom, ne, direktno pred vhod se v času, ko pač ljudje dostopajo v službo, pač parkirajo lahko tudi pač dva taka bela kombija. No. In zato pač je tudi naše ministrstvo počasi pač prišlo na to, da moramo na tukaj nekaj ukreniti. Zdaj, to mestno logistiko, pravzaprav mi govorimo o nekem upravljanju mestne logistike, smo pač vsebino vključili v operativni program za izvajanje evropske kohezijske politike, kjer znotraj imamo pač nek projekt, katerega nosilec je ministrstvo, to je pač projekt Mehki ukrepi trajnostne mobilnosti, znotraj katerega potem imamo pač več različnih ukrepov, kot je že Mateja jih prenašala, in ukrep, na katerem jaz sodelujem, pa je pravzaprav zelena mestna logistika poimenovan, in preko katerega bomo pač pripravljali nacionalne smernice. Na drugi strani imamo to vsebino, smo pravzaprav tudi v prijavo LIFE projekta CARE4CLIMATE, to je pač pravzaprav aktivnost, današnja delavnica je aktivnost tega projekta, smo tudi pač z strani ministrstva šli v to, da se pravzaprav, da se poveča, bom rekel, to ozaveščanje in, bom rekel, strokovna znanja na tem področju in tudi malo pač širše. Ta, bom rekel, najnovejša in aktualna stvar pa pravzaprav, da se te vsebine vključujejo tudi v predlog zakona o celostnem prometnem načrtovanju, ki je ravno kar v nastajanju in bo v pač naslednjem letu se nadejamo, da bo pač bil tudi sprejet. Zdaj bi šel zelo na kratko na to, kar je, bom rekel, najbolj fokusno, kjer ga jaz tudi najbolj poznam, je pač to javno naročilo, preko katerega se izdelujejo nacionalne smernice. Mogoče zgolj pač osnoven nosilec naročila je Pošta Slovenije, ker smo zahtevali, da je neko logistično podjetje vključeno, da ima izkušnje izvedbene izkušnje na terenu, da pač pozna stvari, kako se na terenu izvajajo. Potem sta pa partnerja Zoom, ki je današnji organizator, in še iz tega akademskega vidika strokovnega je pa tudi Fakulteta za gradbeništvo in prometno inženirstvo iz Maribora. In kje zdaj smo na tem projektu, pravzaprav predvideva se pač, da se bo na koncu izdelal te nacionalne smernice. Osnutek je bil pripravljen leta 2019, zdaj v letu 2020 se izvajata 2 pilotna projekta, to pomeni pripravljajo se 2 pilotne strategije, ki jih delamo skupaj z mestno občino Ljubljano in mestno občino Ptuj. Preko projekta se pač je dobavilo tudi malo boljša dostavna kolesa, ki so pač na testiranju iz vidika, kakšna uporabnost teh dostavnih koles bi lahko bila v samih mestih, da ali lahko kolesa nadomestijo kombije, katere dostave bi lahko izvajali s kolesom, pač to so zdaj izzivi, ki jih s tem imamo. Potem leto 2021 naj bi bile zaključene nacionalne smernice, zdaj izzive pri pilotnih projektih nam predstavlja COVID in prihaja do zamud, kajti pri pripravi dokumentov jasno je potrebno imeti kontakte z mnogo deležniki, vendar COVID nas je v spomladanskem času ustavil, zdaj v tem jesenskem pa ponovno, tako da upamo, da proti koncu naslednjega leta res dobimo tisto končno verzijo nacionalnih smernic in z vsemi postopki, kako naj bi se te strategije pripravljale. In ta launch, kako bi rekel temu, javna obravnava te tematike je predvidena na nacionalni konferenci o trajnostni mobilnosti, ki bo predvidoma februarja oziroma začetku leta 2022. Zdaj grem jaz mogoče malce na samo analizo stanja, ki je že bila napravljena oziroma zaključki se še pač pripravljajo za Ljubljano in Ptuj. Izsledki so zelo podobni, no, mogoče so v Ljubljani še malce bolj izraziti, ker je pač večje mesto, pa večje mestno središče je zaprto za promet. Tukaj imamo predstavljeno zdaj območje obravnave. V okviru, prej sem rekel, za rdečo je območje za pešce, kjer je samo mestno središče. Ko smo se pogovarjali z mestno občino, smo določili še malce širše območje, to pomeni območje znotraj notranjega mestnega obroča, s tem, da smo vključili še ta južni del, ki je v coni 1 za parkiranje, to je Mirje, Krakovo in Prule. To je zdaj pač naš pilotno območje, pravzaprav je obkroženo za zeleno barvo, izvajajo se jasno pa tudi priporočila za celotno pač mesto. Na Ptuju je pač zelo podobno, spet mestno središče razširjeno z pač temi najbližjimi ulicami in na ta južni del pravzaprav predvsem zaradi tega, ker se vidi kot nek potencial možnosti dostopa tovora na bolj trajnostni način tudi iz Park and Rida, ki je na tem desnem bregu Drave, ker imamo jasno pač potem direktno povezavo za pešce in kolesarje v samo mestno središče. Nekaj izsledkov, ki bi jih rad mogoče pokazal, ki so tukaj. Bistvo je, ta trenutek ukrepi, ki tukaj so, kako se na ravni mest omejuje pravzaprav ta dostop, da so pač časovna okna, dostavna okna. V Ljubljani je to od 6 do 10. Recimo, če pa pogledamo primer nekega prometnega znaka, ki je bil postavljen, mislim, da več kot 5 let nazaj, je bilo najprej časovno okno do 9, vendar zaradi kasnejših odpiranj vseh lokalov, trgovin, ki so v mestnem središču, mislim, da je mestna občina potem pač ta časovno okno uskladila in ga podaljšala do 10. ure, da ne prihaja do nekega prevzemanja tovora brez nekega predstavnika podjetja, kateremu je dostava namenjena. Na drugi strani imamo Ptuj, ki ima dostavno okno med 5. in 8. uro zjutraj in zvečer med 8. in 11. uro. Izven je pač proti doplačilu, vendar tukaj je eno od izsledkov, ki jih moram pač jasno upozoriti, analize stanja je, da je kljub doplačilu še vedno večina dostav izvedena izven teh časovnih oken. To je ena ugotovitev, ki je malce drugačna, kot za samo Ljubljano velja. Ravno to je tisto, o katerem mogoče bi bilo na koncu pri ugotovitvah potrebno opozoriti. Dosledno izvajanje občinskih odlokov je en prvi pogoj, da se bo pač neka sprememba zgodila. Zdaj prihajam na par podatkov, ki se mi zdi, da jih je dobro, da se mogoče vidi, kaj se pravzaprav sploh znotraj mestnih središč dogaja. In samo nekaj izsledke damo, rekel samo nekaj pač podatkov, mogoče bolj za debato potem, ko bo. Večina poslovnih ustanov oziroma pač podjetij, inštitucij, tudi državne inštitucije, ki so v mestnem središču, nimajo poslovnega prostora oziroma imajo zelo majhna, to pomeni do 50 kvadratov. To pomeni majhni prostori, veliko število dostav oziroma frekvenca dostav je zaradi tega pač večja, ker skladiščni prostor v mestnem središču je seveda dražji kot kje drugje. Tukaj imamo pravzaprav število dostav, tisto, kar opozoril, majhne kvadrature, velik dovolilenc za mestno središče prihaja do tega, da imamo pravzaprav v en sam lokal, to so te podatki, ki so jih dali lastniki in pač ustanove, ki poslujejo v mestnem središču, da imajo tu enkrat ali celo večkrat na dan dostave, pač to je 53 od njih ima pač tako. Večina jih ima tam večkrat tedensko, zelo malo jih ima pa tisti, da pač pridemo na mesečne dostave ali pa samo pač sem pa tja na leto. Bistvo je, da to pomeni res zelo veliko vozil se pač vozi na dnevni ravni v samo mestno središče. En alarmanten podatek, ki je meni zelo pač tako stopil v spredje, je pravzaprav, da kdo si pravzaprav dostavlja, ogromno dostav izvedejo sami lastniki lokalov, ker imajo pač jasno dovolilenco, ko jim zmanjka neko, bom rekel, mogoče za neko restauracijo, ko jim zmanjka nekega vina, verjetno grejo sami po zelo majhno količino vina, ne vem, paket 6 litrov, ne vem, 6 buteljk, 10 buteljk, ne grejo sami, tega je 31%, kjer vidimo potem tudi, to je pa tista oranžna, pa če je izstopajoča, je pa mešanca med samim in dobavitelji. Naslednji, bom rekel, graf bo pokazal pravzaprav še ta, mogoče ključno, tako pomeni, da 60% dostav je izvedenih z lastnim vozilom, kar pomeni, da lastniki lokalov si sami dostavljajo in da dejavnost same logistike in dostave v samem mestnem središču pravzaprav ni to tržna dejavnost, ampak pridemo do tega, da ker imajo dovolilenca, so lastniki teh lokalov ugotovili, da je očitno lažje pravzaprav, da si sami pač dostavljajo, rekel, stvari, ki jih potrebujejo. Na koncu jasno se to pač odraža tudi na strukturi vozil, ki jih imamo za lastno dostavo. 64% jih to dostavlja z avtomobilom, to res pomeni, da niso pač niti približno pač specializirani za to dejavnost. En tih ima še vedno kombi, to so mogoče predvsem tiste trgovine, ki so v nekih verigah in pač dostavljajo neko lastni kombi. Zelo malo je jasno tudi omejitve, potem sta pa še zelo, zelo majhna pač odstotka, 1%, po 1% je pač kolo oziroma pač malce drugačno dostavno vozilo pick-up, čisto. Tukaj so pač zdaj sami dobavitelji, to so pa pač tisti, ki imajo tržno dejavnost, je pa jasno pač prevlada je kombijev, tudi nekaj imajo samo pač avtomobilno, zelo malo je pač tovornjakov, nekaj pa celo neznanega, da ni bilo podatka, s čim dostavljajo. In tukaj potem preidemo k ključnim izzivom, ki jih imamo, torej odločevalci na ravni mesta so pač jasno to županje, oziroma pač vodje oddelkov uradov, pa ne želijo omejevati gospodarske dejavnosti. Pač logistika je gospodarska dejavnost, ki jo opravlja, pač, ki je tržna, in tukaj je vedno nek zadržek, kako to omejevati. To ni pač problem, samo na ravni mest, tudi na ravni države. Imamo te izzive, zdaj, ko smo pripravljali zakon, smo se ravno o tem pogovarjali, ali imamo dovolj velik interes, da bi to lahko opredelili kot gospodarsko javno službo, pa smo prišli do nekega zaključka, da to verjetno preko odločevalcev taka odločitev verjetno ne bo šla skozi, ker potem je potrebno zagotavljati tudi vire za gospodarsko javno službo. No, tukaj zavedanje na ravni odločevalcev še vedno ni na taki ravni, da bi bistvene spremembe verjetno lahko dosegali. Z vidika konsolidacije samega tovora, ki bi lahko se pač na nekih z manj vozili dostavljajo v mestno središče, je en ključen od izzivov, da logistična podjetja jasno pač branijo svoje poslovne podatke, ker to so njihova poslovna skrivnost in jih ne želijo nikakor deliti z svojo konkurenco. In tukaj je edina rešitev, ki je, da imamo pač javni servis, kjer sem pa že pač prej v prvi točki imel, da ustanovitev javnega servisa pač pride do izzivov pri samih odločevalcih. Vozila, ki dostavljajo v samo mestno središče, so zelo slabo zasedena, pač polnega vozila verjetno skoraj da sploh pač ni, ki bi lahko šel noter. Če gledamo pač nekaj nižje, tovor je večinoma do 20 kg, tukaj pridemo do pač alternativ, vse s čim bi lahko dostavljali, ne. Manjše paketi so pač tam do 10 kg. In imamo alternativne možnosti, ki bi lahko bili, zdaj pač tukaj smo mi videli pač te tovorna kolesa, ki jih zdaj testiramo, ali je tudi neka cize ali neki pač taki manjši transportni, ki bi jih lahko, bom rekel, za fizično silo oseba eno ali nek lastnik lokala uporabljal, da ne bi prišel v samo mesto z avtom, ampak da pač na nek drugačen način. No. To je pač kar dosti izzivov. Potem imamo zelo veliko dovolilnic je izdanih. Mesto ima tak odlok, da pač obe mesti imajo pač take odloke, da je možno dokaj hitro dobiti dovolilnico in ni nobenih pač bistvenih pogojev, pomeni ali si lastnik nekega lokala ali celo stanovanja v mestnem središču, dobiš dovolilnico, ali na drugi strani pač upravljaš tržno dejavnost in imaš pač neke dobave. Ne. Ni omejevanja, pač zaradi tega je tudi veliko izdanih dovolilnic in v Ljubljani iz tega pač primera imamo dostop iz Poljanske, tisti vhod v pač Ljubljano pač iz smeri Poljan, pravzaprav zaradi tega, ker je toliko dovolilnic in če niti nimajo spremljanja pravzaprav števila vstopov, zaradi tega, kajti v tistem jutranjem ustavnem času je preveč vozil naenkrat želi priti noter in če bi se zapirala, bom rekel, to podvižni stebriček, pride do tega, da se pač nabere kolona in potem se ustavi promet tam pač na Kopitarjevi cesti, mislim, da je Kopitarjeva, no, in na Poljanski bi zabarikadirali pač, rekel, samo križišče, zaradi tega je zjutraj dvigen stebriček, kar pomeni še zaradi tega, da se pač promet ohranja tekoč, ampak hkrati je pa ni kontrole, koliko vozil gre pač v samo mestno središče. Znotraj mesta je potem pač prostor omejen in kot sem že prej omenil, ne, pač, ko pride prvi kombi parkira na nekem zase idealnem mestu, potem onemogoča, da bi drugi kombi šel mimo, hkrati pa oba dva onemogočata pešcem in kolesarjem nemoteno mobilnost znotraj pač centra. Zatem, ko se pač manevrira po samem mestnem središču, prihaja do ogrožanja ostalih udeležencev, no, pač, ki so v mestu seveda in uporabljajo to pač javni prostor za svojo mobilnost. Drugemu pač tovorna vozila zasedajo. Eden od teh pač pa jasno tudi je nepravilno parkiranje, prej sem rekel 80%. Vsi v Ljubljani, v mestnem središču pač parkirajo na peš površinah, kjer ni določenih dostavnih parkirnih mest. Ko gremo pa malce ven iz tega mestnega pač središča, čistega zaprtega, pridemo pa do tega, da je dostikrat pač na vozišču, ne, ti smo pač prej nekaj primerov videli, dostikrat na nekem pločniku pač, in na avtobusnem postajališču, na parkiriščih, ki so namenjene, bom rekel, pač avtomobilom ali pač celo na parkirnih mestih za invalide. Kje vidimo mi rešitve, da pridemo do nekega strateškega dokumenta na podlagi naših smernic, to pomeni načrt upravljanja mestne logistike, potrebno je začeti pač omejevati dostop, z vidika, bom rekel, hrupa in okolja, emisijske standarde za vozila, ki lahko dostopajo, omejevanje, bom rekel, pač tega časovnega okna in biti zelo, zelo, zelo dosleden izven tega časovnega okna, tudi pač pri uporabi prostora, ki je v samem mestu. Evropa, bom rekel, se zelo usmerja v to konsolidacijo tovora, ampak tukaj mi verjetno imamo in jih bomo še imeli izzive z vidika javnega servisa, kajti vidimo rešitev, da glede na izkušnje, da bo to možno samo kot neki javni servis ustanoviti. Vse se pač z pravnimi zadevami pač se pa to spremeni, ko se pač odloki o urejanju prostora. V to ministrstvo nima pristojnosti, to so pač lokalne skupnosti, ki upravljajo z prometnimi površinami znotraj teh središč. Upravljajo in tukaj predvsem naša naloga je, da jih spodbujamo, bom rekel, v neke optimistične scenarije, da se bo pač to spremenilo. Kot sem že prej rekel, desna slikca spodaj so te tovorna kolesa, ki smo jih testirali v mestnem središču v Ljubljani. Pošta Slovenije je pač ugotovila neko pomanjkljivost z tega vidika, da niso primerni za dostavljanje jasnih poštnih pošiljk, zato ker je drugačno ustavljanje. Za manevriranje so pač, ker so malce daljša, pač imajo malo izzivov, zato se zdaj skupaj z mestno občino Ljubljana pravzaprav išče tudi, ki bo na koncu pač našega projekta tudi prevzela ta kolesa, išče uporabnost za druge namene. Vidimo pač, da bojo uporabili jih lahko za njihovo interno, ker imajo pač mestna občina svoje prostore na več lokacijah v Ljubljani, za njihovo interno kurirsko službo ali za dostavo prehrane, tisti pač, rekel, starejših na domu. Tukaj so še pač neke razne ideje, ki se pa še iščejo in se bojo pač realizirali, rekel, naslednje leto, ko se bo pač malce bolj čas primeren. Pogled v prihodnost, kje smo pač, jaz rekel, nacionalne smernice se izdelujejo. Bomo imeli leta 2022. Zato ugotavljamo, če naredimo samo smernice, na koncu ni nekega bistvenega spremembo. Poskušamo, zdaj smo v fazi programiranja evropske kohezijske politike za naslednjo perspektivo, da se zagotovi tudi vere za nosilce upravljanja mestne logistike, da bi lahko recimo financirali ali konsolidacijski center ali mogoče tudi pač neka vozila, ki bi v tem javnem servisu bila lahko vključena, vendar to ni še zagotovljeno, kajti programiranje še ni zaključeno. To je stvar pač v neko odločitve na ravni Slovenije in jasno tudi na koncu potrditve s strani Evropske unije. Projekt, na katerem danes pač smo, menimo, da pač je potrebno na ravni strokovnega kadra, ki deluje na ministrstvu, na državni ravni, na ravni lokalnih skupnosti, dvigniti pač naše znanje, kompetence, informacije, izkušnje iz tujine. Ključen izziv pa verjetno vidimo pač iz našega vidika tudi v ozaveščanju odločevalcev, torej, ker je to 6-leten projekt, nadejamo se, da bo čez 6 let ozaveščenost oziroma mentaliteta malce na višjem nivoju. In kot sem že rekel, pač vsebine se vključujejo v celostno pač zakon o celostnem prometnem načrtovanju, kjer vsebine zaenkrat ne morem razkrivati, kaj je v osnutku in jo moramo še interno uskladiti na ravni, bom rekel, našega ministrstva, se pa pričakuje, da bo pač zakon v javni obravnavi v prvi polovici naslednjega leta. Tako da, to je zdaj pač moja kratka predstavitev, če še kakšnakoli vprašanja, tukaj dopuščam kontakt in bom tudi pač cel dan prisoten na sami delavnici.
Najlepša hvala, gospod Steklačič. Ker se pa želimo držati urnika, bomo nadaljevali kar s predavanji. Sodelujoči, kar pogumno postavljate vprašanje, kot je dejal gospod Steklačič, namen je seveda, da izkoristimo priložnost za pogovor z našimi gosti, vprašanja pa bomo kasneje predebatirali v diskusiji. Ker želimo biti dobri gostitelji, naj na tej točki preklopim na angleški jezik, da nas bodo Malce tehničnih težav, naj preklopim torej na angleški jezik, da nas bodo tudi naši gostje razumeli. So, hello to all our guests who have logged in from different parts of Europe. First off, let me welcome Christian Nussmüller, the head of the Graz Executive Office for Urban Planning, Development and Construction, the unit for EU programs and international cooperation in neighboring Austria. Thank you for joining us. I hope you can hear me.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Hi.
Thank you very much for your kind invitation to your workshop today.
Thank you for joining us. So as mentioned before, I will be here to ask questions from the audience. So anyone who wants to ask you questions, please use Zoom's chat to do so in English or in Slovenian, whichever our participants prefer. So you will be presenting the national funded project Grazlog, a cooperatively used intra-urban logistics hub in Graz, if I understand correctly.
That's right, that's right. And I'll try to share my screen. Just a second. So I think that should work now.
Yes.
Could you all see it? Yes. Thank you again for giving me the opportunity to share you some experiences in our pilot project Grazlog, connected to innovative logistics optimization in Graz. I've divided my presentation in 5 parts. First, I'd like to present some trends, some obvious trends. You all know this, but I think it's good to remember what is going on in the CEP sector. Then I'll want to take you with me to Graz and show you a little bit the current situation in the city center of Graz, connected to traffic and freight traffic. Then I'll continue with the objectives of the Grazlog project. After that, I've prepared some European examples of cooperative city hubs, and then, last but not least, I'd like to show you our Grazlog solution approach. But first, I'd like to share you this diagram about the predicted development of CEP shipment volumes from 2000 to 2022 for Germany. You see an above average long-term growth of the CEP sector. That's nothing new for you as experts. From my point of view, nearly the same trend applies to Austria and other European countries. And this year, as we all know, COVID-19 reinforced this trend to more shipments. According to a recent Austrian newspaper report from December the 3rd, compared to the previous year, the parcel volumes at Österreichische Post increased by plus 40% over 1 million parcels for the period around the Black Friday 2 weeks ago. So it's enormous. That's an enormous growth rate. In general, it's rather hard to get accurate figures for the CEP sector. Most of the CEP companies avoid to share internal data connected to shipment flows. From my opinion, this is because of a strong competitive pressure between them. So what you can see here on the left side, these are the shipment volumes per inhabitant per year for Vienna, Austria, and Germany for 2016. And on the right side, the revenue per inhabitant per year, also for Vienna, Austria, and Germany. Of course, the figures will be higher for 2020, but as I said before, I think they still give a good picture of what is going on in this sector. On the left side, you see this pie diagram with the shipment volumes by shipment flows in 2016 for Vienna. Nearly 70% are business to consumer shipments. 1/4 are business to business shipments, and the rest, 6%, are consumer to consumer shipments. All in all, the forecast development of freight traffic is diametrically opposed to the goals of the Paris Climate Agreement, and this shall alarm us, especially in the municipal administrations. Yeah, as I said before, we see a steady growth of online businesses. New digital services make delivery faster and more individual. For example, shipment tracking, short-term rerouting, or quick returns management for retailers. And this results in more shipments and more individual deliveries. And that means we have to face more delivery vehicles on the road at the moment when we have this more of the same scenario and no collaborative models. On the other hand, consistent digitization and automation offer new efficiency opportunities for this sector, and that are the trends for this sector, which represents the current situation from my point of view. But what is the situation in Graz? Here you see the current framework conditions for the central pedestrian zone in our city. We also have a legal delivery time frame from 5 to 10 a.m. and the weight limit for trucks of 7.5 tons. Up to now, the issue of special permits to enter after the legal time frame is handled very liberal, to be honest, and the monitoring of these special permits is done by the municipal parking service patrols. Automatic video surveillance is currently not possible because of federal legal data protection restrictions, but we are working on this issue, of course. What does that mean when we look at the total numbers? From 5 to 10 a.m. in this so-called legal time frame, there are up to 700 trucks and cars in this pedestrian zone, in the central pedestrian zone of Graz. In the afternoon, from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., it's nearly 360 and something trucks and cars. Most of them are also delivering goods to the small businesses. It's not always a truck which delivers the goods to them. Then we count up to 100,000 visitors in the city center, according to a permanent analysis of mobile data, which runs since 1.5 years now. And in the peak hour, we have to face 170 trucks and cars there. We evaluated the shipment flows for this area and counted approximately 4,000 parcels per day for business to business and business to consumer shipments. What are the objectives of our Graz-Log project? All in all, or at first, we want to reduce the freight traffic in the pedestrian zone and on the other hand, increase the quality of stay and also the security there. We want to have, therefore, a better shopping experience, increasing the competitiveness of the inner city economy. And also we want to reduce emissions caused by delivery traffic. These are air and noise emissions, but also want to protect the road surface. So we think that a coordinated route planning leads to more efficient use of transport capacities and therefore less delivery traffic within this pedestrian zone. And our solution in the Graz-Log project is the development of a cooperative urban logistic hub, the sustainable last mile transport solution for this area, with the aim of scalability and transferability to other urban areas in Graz, but also other cities somewhere else. Since 2012, we started knowledge building activity connected to urban transport in Graz, and also smart logistic solutions, mainly through the EU projects SmartSet and Novelog. The links are included in my presentation if you want to know more about that. And within these projects, we identified, of course, best practices in European cities, and 3 of those I'd like to share also with you. There are two Italian cities and 1 Swedish city. If we look to Vicenza, they operate such a cooperative system since 2004. The company is called Veloce, and the city itself is the majority shareholder there. As you can see on the pictures, they're using electric trucks for this freight transport system. In Padua, the operator is called City Porto Padua. It's also in operation since 2004. Here, the majority shareholders are private transport companies, and they also supply neighboring communities in the city region. Finally, in Gothenburg in Sweden, there are 2 operators called Stadtleveransen and Lindholmen Leveransen. They are in operation since 2016, and they are transporting at district level and are owned by the municipality itself. So what is the Graz-Log solution approach? Yeah, it's a cooperative organized city hub approach. That means that the operating structure shall be open for all carriers. It shall be possible an all-day delivery to the inner city hub by all carriers. Then there will be a cross-company consolidation of shipments in this centrally located hub facility. And then the Graz-Log system will operate the last mile transport to the city center with environmental friendly vehicles like e-trucks and e-cargo bikes. So this shall be a coordinated delivery to and a collection from the end customers with optimized route planning, agreed service time windows, and other tailor-made services for the businesses in our inner city area. In the first phase, we want to start with business-to-business deliveries, and later on we will also transport to consumers. So we want to develop and test a cooperative operator and business model, a methodology for the optimized planning of the hub location and the transport tasks. And at the end, we want to have a proof of feasibility for the system concept with the monitoring and then accurate evaluation. All in all, you see here the project duration. It started, Graz-Log as a national funded project started in September 2018 and will go on till January 2023. From our point, this time frame was very important because when you have a shorter project duration, it won't lead to any feasible project results from our point of view. The partner structure is the following. We have a lead partner in Vienna, the Austrian Institute of Technology. The other partners are local partners. It's the city of Graz with the Department for Traffic Planning and my EU unit. Then we have the city management here in Graz, which is also connected to the municipality and is the interface to the businesses in the city center. Then another partner is the Graz University of Technology with the Institute of Technological Logistics, and Prime Software. It's a local software company. As I told you before, in the first phase of the project, we could apply to national fundings. The funding rate is 80%. And in the second phase, the project will be totally locally funded by the municipality itself. That means that we make co-payments of 21,000 euro per month for the pilot operation of our Graz-log system. Here you see on this map an overview of the implementation area in the inner city center of Graz. And the next steps are to finalize the lease agreement for the storage and transshipping facility that shall be finalized in a few days. From September to November, we had an open procurement process to find the right operator, and the operator decision was taken at the end of November. And now next week we will inform our city council about this. We want to go live with the operation in February next year. And in July, there will be a first interim evaluation. This is also the date where the national funding project is ending. And from then on, we will, if the operation works well, we will further on fund this project by our own resources till January 23. And that is the end of the pilot phase, and the objective up to then is that we then have a viable financing model and the decision for a continuous operation of the system. So what will be the future legal framework conditions in Graz? The legal delivery time frame from 5 to 10 a.m. remain. Also the weight limit remains unchanged, but currently there is a political discussion connected to a stricter issue and monitoring of the special permits. That means it shouldn't be that easy to get a permit to enter the inner city pedestrian area in the afternoon. Simultaneously, of course, we can offer the cooperative system of Graz-log for the CEP companies. The success criteria for our project, from my point of view, is the cooperation and strong involvement of multiple stakeholders like the Chamber of Commerce, also roundtables with business owners. Then, as I mentioned before, the sufficiently long test phase, and the additional services that shall be offered exactly for the inner city needs. And perhaps there's also a change in the legal time framework for the afternoon deliveries in the city center. So I hope that this picture and the next picture will belong to the past in the next years. Now I have to thank you for your attention, and please feel free to pose questions. I think the chat was open, and we also have prepared an online polling. I think the moderator will
Yes.
tell you this now. Yeah, thank you very much from now on.
Thank you, Mr. Nismila. But before we continue, as you just mentioned, we would like to ask all participants to answer one of Mr. Nismila's questions. You might have noticed at the start, the polls don't seem to be working at the moment, so we do kindly ask you to answer the question by posting your answer in the chat. We'll then gather your answers and let you know the results during the discussion. So the question is, how strict are the access regulations for urban freight transport vehicles in your city? I think our technical team will also post the question, yes, exactly, in the chat. You can answer strict, moderate, or no restrictions. Let's repeat that in Slovenian. Malce tehničnih težav imamo torej z anketami, ste mogoče opazili, zato vas pozivamo, da na naslednje vprašanje odgovorite kar v klepet. Vprašanje pa se glasi, kako strogi so predpisi o dostopu dostavnih in tovornih vozil v vašem mestu? Torej strogi, zmerni ali pa ni omejitev? odgovorite, prosim. Ja, tako lahko še dopišete svoje mesto, to je super. So let's give everyone a minute to post their replies. If anyone's having any difficulties, please let our tech team know by posting in the chat, and they will be with you in a moment. Some people have already answered.
Most of the answers says moderate, as far as I can see now. Yeah,
they do, yeah. But yeah, we will discuss this later. Keep posting your answers, please. It would be great if all of you answered this. Again, thank you, Mr. Nussmüller. And next up is a quick break. We do want to keep to our schedule. We'll be back at 10 minutes past 11. Hopefully our guests will forgive me if I switch back to Slovenia now for a moment. Tako, ura je 4 minute do 11, mislim, da smo si zaslužili kratko pauzo, tako da na hitro lahko skočite na kavo, potem pa se spet dobimo tukaj, ko sta na sporedu še dva zelo zanimiva predavanja, tako da ne zamudite ju, začnemo ob 11:10.
Ja,
Pozdravljeni, dobrodošli nazaj na spletno delavnico Upravljanje mestne logistike. Upam, da ste si uspeli malce pretegniti noge. Ker sta tudi naša zadnja dva predavatelja iz tujine, bom tudi tu naredila uvod v angleščini. So as I said, welcome back everyone. We won't keep you waiting. Our next speaker comes from the Netherlands. Mr. Mark Degenkamp is the Strategic Mobility Advisor for the municipality of Zaanstad. I hope he's here and he can hear me.
Yes, I can.
Hi, hello. So you will be presenting Dutch city logistics from a front runner and a late starter perspective, and also touch on why city logistics is again a hot topic, right?
Yes. Okay. Now it should be full screen. Yes. Okay. Well, thank you for the introduction. Let's start right away. My name is Mark Degenkamp. As said, I now work for the city of Zaanstad for 1.5 years now, but I used to work, oh, it's going automatically again. I used to work for the city of Utrecht for about 18 years. I will bring in my experience from both cities. I think I have to stop for a moment because otherwise it will switch to the next slide when I don't want it to. Yes. Now it should be okay. City logistics in the Netherlands used to be a niche topic for most cities. Actually, only the biggest cities, the 4 biggest cities in Holland had dedicated staff and money. And also there, it went on and off the agenda. So even cities like Rotterdam for periods of time didn't work on city logistics at all. Now it's becoming a hot topic again for many more cities, and that's through the National Climate Agreement, which contains many agreements, but one of those is that in the 30 to 40 biggest municipalities, there should be a zero emission zone for city logistics in 2025. And this is aiming not only for clean, but also efficient logistics. I will tell a bit more at the end of my presentation. And it's an agreement between governments and industry. So there's a broad support for this agreement as well. But it also means that a lot of cities are now, who don't have experience until now, are now starting again with the topic. And Zaanstad is actually also one of them. I will focus on both Utrecht and Zaanstad in my presentation. First of all, Utrecht is well quite known in the mobility world in Europe by now. It's the 4th largest city in the Netherlands. It's a fast-growing city. It's growing to above 400,000 inhabitants in about 10 years, I believe. It's more focused on knowledge and culture, also from the historical perspective. It's a meeting place in Holland because it's in the middle of the country, and it's been a front runner in city logistics for many years now. Zaanstad is smaller, but also growing, and I think for Slovenia, it's actually a big city. It's not one a clear city with the city center and neighborhoods around it. No, it's actually composed of a city and some other villages which are aligned along a river and a railway. So it's a linear city actually, and that means different mobility challenges. It's also had a rich history. You might, if you've been to Amsterdam and from Amsterdam went to the windmills, probably you've been in Zaanstad because the Zaanse Schans is in Zaanstad. You can see it on the bottom. So the history there is more about windmills production, and still the city is also has a production origins. It's very close to Amsterdam. Actually, it's next to Amsterdam, and it's really growing together in the next 20 years. And it's a late starter in city logistics. Well, let's start with Utrecht then. Utrecht has become a front runner actually because no one was doing it, no one was working on it. But I think there were 4 success factors that made Utrecht a front runner. First of all, the start was very practical. We didn't start with a very difficult or solution, but we started actually with just signage, clear routing, some loading and unloading zones. That was the start of our city logistics program. It was simple. It still, of course, costed some money, but not that much. But we could show very clearly that we were caring about the subject. And actually, we found out that before and after this program, the truck drivers especially appreciated the accessibility of the city quite much higher than before. And that's only because of signage, the loading and loading zones, etc. So it was a small step, but it had good effects. Secondly, we also almost from the start, we tried to cooperate with the region because city logistics doesn't stop at the city border. We first started with cooperating in the Utrecht region to set up a regional freight network, and the region made it possible that improvements on this route were funded, so you could make this route suitable for freight trucks. I hear some noise in the background. I don't know if others hear it as well. That was actually a good success. We also tried to harmonize rules like time windows. I must say that wasn't such a success because in the end, all municipalities wanted to decide on their own on those regulations, most of them. Just one municipality, and this was not Utrecht, did follow those harmonization rules in the end. What did work in terms of harmonization was a national cooperation for low emission zone for trucks, where Utrecht and Eindhoven were the first to start with a low emission zone, but others like Amsterdam and Rotterdam were soon to follow. And from the start, there was a national agreement about what the rules for the environmental zone should be, what exemptions were possible, how you could get access to vehicle data from the national vehicle database, so it was better possible to enforce, etc., etc. So this agreement made it cheaper for us. It was still quite expensive, but still much cheaper to implement an environmental zone, much quicker, and also better to explain to companies because the rules which were applied to Utrecht also did apply to other cities. Third, we always from the start did everything in cooperation with private partners. Actually, the inner city distribution plan, which was the first step, was based on an advice from a committee in Utrecht, KABU it's called, where logistics organizations, city center management, but also municipal employees come together regularly, about 6 times per year, and advise the city board on city logistics issues. And this inner city distribution plan was one of the results of that, but also like a big shopping center in a new housing area to the west of Utrecht was fitted with underground distribution system. And I believe that the involvement of the KABU committee from the start was one of the reasons that it actually succeeded, that it still was built and not scratched because of money issues. Also later there was, from a regional cooperation, there was the possibility to get advice and also some small bonus in terms of money for companies which wanted to optimize their logistics. And we also combined it with stimulating regulation. So you could get extra advantages in certain ways like extra time outside the time windows if you were more or are more logistically efficient. Here you can see one example which we implied, I believe, in 2000, or we decided on it in 2016 or 2017, you can see in blue on the top, these were the original time windows in Utrecht. So from 6 to 11 in the morning and 1 small hour in the evening. And what we did was adding the green part, and which was only accessible for zero emission logistics. And this green part gets bigger through time. So step by step, more time is reserved for zero emission. And until 2025, when only zero emission vehicles are allowed in these time windows. And the fourth success factor was that we facilitated innovation a lot in Utrecht. We did it for a small part ourselves. This is the delivery by boat you can see on the left. This was actually because big companies like Heineken asked the municipality to do that for them. The bars and restaurants in Utrecht are mainly along a canal, which has a split level. So the bars are actually on the water level, and the trucks should drive on top of that. You can see it on the left bottom. And there are strict weight restrictions. And because of that, boat delivery, but delivery by boat is a very good solution in Utrecht. But it's also investing in a boat is expensive, so the city runs it, and companies like Heineken and other beer brewers use it, hire it actually. And also we have had pilots with service logistics. So like it actually started with a service engineer from Coca-Cola, which has to go to all kind of bars and fix the Coke machines, and they started to do that by cargo bike, and now many more companies are doing that. They can park their bike, their car, their van in a parking house, and then use this cargo bike. And on the right, you can see actually our urban distribution center solutions. We don't have one, we didn't have one central urban distribution center, but we recognized several companies which were obliged to accept goods from third parties and then bring it into the city center. With that, I always said, because especially the picture on the left, which is the company Cargo Hopper, which doesn't exist anymore, was very popular. Many cities came to Utrecht and asked us, how can I have a cargo hopper myself? And actually what I said from the start is forget this vehicle. That's not the main part. It's what you see, but the main part is the logistical concept. The logistical concept is there is an urban distribution center, then one truck drives to the extra hub, which you can see on the map near the city center, and from there the cargo hopper drives into the city center. Actually, I said that because this vehicle was chosen because of the circumstances in Utrecht, the special circumstances. In other cities, other vehicles might be better. And also, in the end, I got some proof for it, which was because this cargo hopper company went bankrupt, not because of this vehicle, but because of other circumstances. But actually, DHL is now doing exactly the same logistical concept, but not with this road train, but with cargo bikes. They also bring boxes with one truck to an extra hub, and there they are loaded onto cargo bikes. So the success in this case is the logistical concept, and the vehicle is just what you see. Then I switched to Zaanstad. Well, Zaanstad is quite different from Utrecht. I already told there is not one big shopping center. There are several smaller ones. It's, I think, also because of the competition of Amsterdam being really nearby. Also, because of that, but also because of how it's been designed, there are not strict weight restrictions and things like that. There are backdoor delivery options. So it's quite easy to go to do deliveries in those shopping centers without causing very much hindrance. And that makes it difficult to set steps forward because no one feels it's a really big problem. And maybe also it's part of the reason is the Zaanstad mentality. As I told, Zaanstad has been a production city, and still we have factories inside in the middle of housing areas. So people are used to some noise and smell, etc. And also they have been thinking, well, Zaanstad is just ugly and smelly, so that's part of the city. And so that isn't an urgency as well. Because of that, but also in general, Zaanstad just has a very limited municipal staff. So there was no staff at all for goods logistics. But recently that's changing. Well, I already told the National Climate Agreement, but also Zaanstad is really growing fast, and it's growing through densification. That means more pressure on the same urban space, and that increases the necessity to be more efficient with your transport. Also, maybe people in Zaanstad now can see that Zaanstad can be beautiful because some redevelopments in the city center of Zaandam and Wormerveer have shown has made those city centers really nice places to be. So maybe there's now a belief that it can be better than it always has been. And also in the third city, shopping center, Krommenie, we see that the shop owners see the value of a more accessible and attractive center. This all comes together in a new urban mobility plan, which I'm also the project leader for, and that focus a lot on this use of more efficient space use and also cleaner transport. But still, we have this limited staff, no money, etc. So again, where to start? What we felt was that the efficiency was the local trigger. So the local trigger for the companies, they think they wanted less vehicles, not so much cleaner vehicles. That cleaner part was more for the logistic operators and for the government, the main trigger. Because of our limitations, again, we try to start simple. We are now looking for mutual gains. What can local businesses do themselves, but also what small changes can we apply in those centers to again show that we want to improve the city logistics. But maybe in contrary then to how it started in Utrecht, we also are going to create urgency through regulation. So the zero emission zones, we have decided that we want to implement 3 of them in those 3 shopping centers we have. And we believe that is necessary, but also desirable because it's a clear point on the horizon where companies can adapt their business to. And also many logistic companies actually now in the Netherlands ask us to do that. What we also try to do is find synergy with Amsterdam and the region. For example, many companies that serve Amsterdam, especially also local service technicians, are based in Zaanstad. They live here and have their van parked in front of their house. And in a few years, they just cannot go into Amsterdam anymore unless their vehicle is zero emission. So we try to connect to this movement which is coming from Amsterdam. Also, we try to stimulate businesses that, for example, do the logistics for shops in Amsterdam, to also do that in Zaanstad, and our zero emission zone will help for that. And regionally, like in Utrecht, there now is a possibility to help individual companies to make their logistics more efficient. About the zero emission zones, I said that we will implement 3. The national agreement, again, between national government, cities and business organizations will be signed early next year. And the main part of this agreement are the rules for the zero emission zones. It's in 2025, only zero emission vehicles can go in, plus some transitional agreements for mainly the newest vans and the newest trucks. So new vans, Euro 5, will get access until the end of 2026, Euro 6 vans until 2027, and Euro 6 trucks will have access until 2030, the beginning of 2030. So these regulations are in this national agreement, but also there are parts of this agreement are facilities to help cities to improve the logistic efficiency. So what can they learn from other cities? How can they make it attractive for companies to innovate in their own city? And that is not only nice, but it's also necessary, because we know that on the 1st of January of 2025, there will not be enough vehicles to one-on-one replace all the vehicles that now go into the zero emission zones that will be available, or that will be installed in 2025. So we cannot replace just all dirty trucks by clean trucks. There has to be a change to more efficient logistics, because otherwise the logistics won't work. So what did we learn? The title is not correct, I see. Actually, from both cities, I would say start simple, also just to show that you care about the subject. Don't focus just on clean, but also work on efficiency, because a clean truck is still a truck that can block the way, or make maybe a bit less noise, but still noise. Don't focus on one solution, but try to find different solutions for different markets. Use regulations as a measure to push or pull into a certain direction, but try to connect to regulations that other cities use, because that makes it better to explain. And finally, which is clear, I hope, this should always be part of a broader mobility policy. Also to explain it that if you try to change something in city logistics, that you have a goal which might be in another part of the mobility sector, like improving the situation for pedestrians. And then it should be an integral story. So that was all.
Thank you very much, Mr. Degenkamp. I hope this lecture sparked some questions and ideas on how our participants would like to apply all this that you mentioned to their own cities. Our final speaker Since we're a bit short on time, we'll skip the questions and we can debate them in the discussion itself. So our final speaker is Mr. Gary Armstrong, who is an independent consultant who has been involved in the promotion of cargo bikes in the private and public sector for the past 10 years. I hope he can hear me.
Yes, I can.
He's here. Hi, hello.
Hi.
So you will be speaking about how municipalities can promote the use of cargo bikes. And so if you're ready.
Okay. Can everyone see that?
Yes, thank you.
Hello, and welcome to this presentation on how municipalities can promote the use of cargo bikes. The main theme of this presentation will be cargo bikes as one of the solutions to urban logistics. My name is Gary Armstrong, and I am the training manager of ECLF, the European Cycle Logistics Federation. ECLF is a trade association representing companies which use cargo bikes for delivering goods and services. Before we start, I just need to mention the EU-funded project City Changer Cargo Bike, which promotes the use of cargo bikes. It is a 3-year project which started in September 2018 and will run to August 2021 and consists of 22 partners, including 14 cities. ECLF is one of the technical partners involved in the project. The project website, cyclelogistics.eu, contains a wealth of resources about the subject, and I recommend that you take a closer look. Prior to the City Changer Cargo Bike project, there were 2 previous projects, Cycle Logistics and Cycle Logistics Ahead, which can also be accessed via the listed website. The first thing I want to say is that cycle logistics is not new. Early in the 20th century, bicycles were used extensively to deliver goods and services. Examples here include the local baker delivering from their shop to local residents, the brewery taking kegs of beer to the pub, the dairy delivering milk to both retailers and homes, the post office delivering the mail, even telecommunication engineers taking their tools and equipment to implement or repair the telephone network. But then motor vehicles come along, and with the marketing might of the motor industry, we were brainwashed into thinking that motor transport was the only way forward. And this led to a change in urban landscape, which today has resulted in all sorts of consequences. These issues include emissions, pollution, and noise, restricted access to motor vehicles, making delivery to the door increasingly difficult, congestion. In the middle photographed is a busy street in London, and if you look closely, you can probably count 8 vans. And I bet if you open up many of these vans, they are likely to be only less than half full and carrying small packages and parcels, which could be easily transported in a cargo bike. Then we have lorries and vans on our streets. The photo in the top right is from my home city of Cambridge in the UK. And this is a frequent occurrence in the small narrow streets in the city, where there are huge articulated lorries competing for space with cyclists and pedestrians. And then finally, we have parking fines. Motor vehicles, especially delivery vehicles, are increasingly finding it difficult to park and hence collecting parking fines as they attempt to beat the traffic warden. So why the growing interest in cycle logistics? This is an interesting graphic as it encapsulates why there is growing interest. Looking at the demand side, citizens and local authorities are becoming more environmentally aware about the issues involved in pollution, noise, and congestion in our cities. At the same time, we are seeing a move away from traditional retailing to e-commerce and app-based services. And this is attracting new clients with demanding expectations of more choice, reliable delivery windows, and more flexible services. So all of this is resulting in more but smaller parcels needing to be delivered. Then looking at the supply side, there are now sustainability conscious decision makers in the public and private sectors demanding changes, which is resulting in new responses to air quality, noise, and congestion. As a result, partnerships are being formed between interested parties, which in turn is resulting in innovative solutions such as micro consolidation centres, low emission zones in city streets, and delivery time restrictions. At the same time, there is a rising cycling culture and new cycling infrastructure being implemented in our city. These initiatives all point to the cargo bike being one of the answers delivering goods into our city centres. There has been some interesting research undertaken in the previous cyclogistics projects, which highlights the potential of cargo bikes. In European cities, every second motorised trip associated with the transport of goods and services, this includes both private and business use, could be shifted from motor vehicles to bicycles, cargo bikes or cargo trikes. In the specific area of delivery, every third trip associated with the transport of goods could be shifted from motor vehicles to cargo bikes. That is, 33% of urban deliveries could be undertaken by cargo bike. So who uses cargo bikes? Cargo bikes can be used in a variety of different areas, including delivery and courier services, businesses delivering their own products, craftspeople such as plumbers, electricians and decorators, municipalities and local authorities. They can be used for mobile street vending, and finally private logistics and families. Let's take a closer look at each of these areas. One of the largest uses of cargo bikes in the commercial sector is delivery companies. And I've got 3 examples here. The first one in the top, Zedify. This is a UK-based cyclogistics operator which uses cargo bikes for deliveries in 9 cities in the UK. They have a fleet of over 70 cargo bikes and trikes across their various locations, doing last mile deliveries in cities centres for both traditional logistics operators, e-commerce companies and local businesses. In the middle here, we've got Fiets Couriers. This is an interesting cooperative made up of 15 separate cyclogistics operators providing delivery services to over 40 cities across the Netherlands. They can also provide intercity deliveries between city hubs using environmentally friendly vehicles. Then we've got DHL. Even the big logistics operators such as DHL, FedEx, UPS are adopting cargo bikes for deliveries in congested areas. When DHL first introduced cargo bikes in Amsterdam, they were able to replace 33 vans with cargo bikes, resulting in a 27% reduction in emissions and over €430,000 saving in operational costs. Next, we have businesses who have decided to invest in cargo bikes to undertake their own deliveries. The first example here is Drings, a butcher based in Greenwich in London, who uses cargo bikes to do home deliveries. There are some great examples of independent retailers adopting cargo bikes for home deliveries. Then at the other extreme, there is Amazon. In Berlin, they operate out of an inner city centre-based depot, providing fast delivery from the depot to local residents using cargo bikes. They even provide a 1-hour delivery window. Another example is Food Logica in Amsterdam in the Netherlands. Local farmers around Amsterdam grow their produce and deliver them to the city centre of Amsterdam. The items are delivered early in the morning and stored in a container. Then during the day, cargo trikes are used to do the last mile delivery to restaurants and local residents. There are solar panels on the roof of the container which can be used to charge the batteries for the cargo trikes, and the cargo trikes are stored in the container overnight. Food Logica now also operate in a number of other cities in both the Netherlands and other countries. Next, we have some great examples of tradespeople using cargo bikes and trailers to operate their businesses. Top left is a cycle plumber operating in central Paris. In the middle is Pascal, the window cleaner who operates in Vienna in Austria. Top right is a painter and decorator in Nijmegen in the Netherlands. Bottom left is a mobile bike repairman who operates in Paris. And finally, bottom right is my personal favourite, Cambridge Environmental Services, a pest control company based in my home city of Cambridge in the UK, which uses cargo bikes and trailers to undertake their work. Municipalities and local authorities are increasingly using cargo bikes for delivering services to residents and businesses in their locations. Examples here include street cleaning in Graz in Austria, park maintenance in the London Borough of London, trade waste collection in Hereford, the UK. Here, clean waste, for example, packaging and cardboard generated by independent shops, is collected by cargo truck. Cargo bikes for hire for use by businesses and residents in a number of cities in Switzerland. The mobile library in Strasbourg in France. and mobile information points using cargo bikes in Edinburgh in Scotland. Next, we've got mobile street vending, which is increasingly being performed using cargo bikes. Examples here include Juice on Wheels operating in a beach resort in Spain, Beer Bike dispensing Carlsberg beer with a bike suitably branded, the Coffee Bike in Cambridge, UK. Here the operator rides the bike to the tourist location and then once set up in stationary mode has to pedal to both grind the coffee beans and also create the pressure for the hot water milk dispensing. Then we've got catering. The example in the bottom right is Rita Brinks, a catering company based in Vienna who produces conference food at a central location, which is then transported to conference venues using a fleet of cargo bikes. The cargo bikes, when they arrive on site, can then be converted into mobile serving stations. At a two-day conference ECLF ran in Vienna a couple of years back, attended by over 400 participants, this company provided all the catering for the two-day event, including refreshments on arrival and during the breaks, and also hot food at lunch. In addition, they also provided all the catering for an evening party, all prepared remotely and delivered to the site by cargo bike. And finally, we have cargo bikes being used for private logistics and families. Here, cargo bikes are being used for transporting a Christmas tree, carrying purchases from stores and DIY centre, and transporting children to and from school. As our cities become closed to motorised vehicles, cargo bikes can easily be used as a replacement to the car. So let's consider the benefits of cargo bikes. They are environmentally friendly with zero emissions and no noise. They are great at cutting through congestion and are therefore both fast and reliable. They have flexible carrying capability and can be used for both carrying children and cargo, and if converted, providing business opportunities such as mobile street vending. Any cargo carried by can be both secure and watertight and therefore can be used professionally. They provide a positive image for a city and are fun, smart and trendy. If adopted by a municipality for delivery of services, the city can be seen as leading by example. By their very nature, cargo bikes are local, for use by businesses and residents alike. I now want to look at how municipalities can encourage use of cargo bikes by outlining a 10-point strategy. The strategy is not fixed in stone and should be adapted for local needs, as some cities may already have started to address some of the points highlighted. Strategy point 1, which is probably the most important, is to invest in cycling infrastructure. And we don't just mean white paint. It is important to stress that cycling infrastructure is for all cyclists, not just cargo bike users. In fact, it will be ordinary people on bicycles which will use the cycling infrastructure the most. Their main aim being to normalise cycling, as this will encourage businesses and citizens using cargo bikes to use it. So what do we mean by cycling infrastructure? Examples include fully segregated cycle paths, which are dedicated for cycling and will not be used by motorists. Cycle parking for both ordinary bikes and cargo bikes. Priority at junctions. The good work involved in introducing dedicated cycle paths can be easily ruined by not providing priority at junctions or turnings. The building of specific infrastructure, for example, bridges and tunnels, which allow cyclists and cargo bike users to avoid using the similar facilities provided to motorists. Strategy point 2, the municipality must lead by example. The municipality should look at their own internal operations and identify services which could be provided by cargo bike. You will probably find that there are many services being provided which are currently using a diesel van, and these operations are the ones which could be targeted first. Actual examples from around Europe include municipal park and guard maintenance in Plovdiv, Bulgaria, and street cleaning in Graz, Austria, and San Sebastian in Spain. The mobile library services provided by the city of Strasbourg in France. The distribution of internal and external mail around Cambridge City Council. In this example, cargo bikes are used to collect the mail from the local post office sorting office, which is transferred to the council post room for sorting by cargo bike. The post room staff then sort the post, and cargo bikes are then used to transfer both the external and internal mail around 7 locations in the city. and at the same time collecting internal mail for return to the post room for distribution later in the day. Previously, this was being performed by 2 full-time employees in a diesel van. Earlier, I highlighted a number of other services which could be undertaken by cargo bike, including trade waste collection, cargo bike hire for businesses and residents, and mobile information points. Point 3, the introduction of regulatory measures favouring cycle logistics and general cycling. Examples include access restrictions for lorries and vans. In my city of Cambridge, UK, access to the city centre is closed to motor vehicles between 10 AM and 4 PM. This means delivery companies need to look at alternative means to make their deliveries. In the case of Cambridge, a number of delivery companies subcontract the delivery work to a cycle logistics company, which undertake the last mile into the city centre using cargo trucks and bikes. The introduction of 30km speed limits in urban streets. This demonstrably encourages more cycling. Access for cyclists to one-way streets in the opposite direction. Shared use cycle paths which both cyclists and pedestrians can use. Other examples include parking restrictions and low emission zones. Next is strategy point 4, the remodelling of on-street and off-street delivery facilities. This involves providing specific facilities for cargo bike parking, adoption of regulations covering the design and provision of off-street delivery and storage areas, the introduction of cycle-based home delivery services, incentive to local shops and businesses that choose green delivery options, for example, tax rebates, and the development of delivery service plans for local shops and businesses. Point 5 of the strategy is securing and providing space for micro-consolidation centres. For a cycle logistics company to be sustainable, the business needs to be undertaking lots of deliveries. In large cities, there may be areas which can't be easily serviced from a cycle logistics operator's depot. So how can the municipality help? By securing space for micro hubs in policy planning and zoning strategies, identifying and adapting key public space for micro consolidation purposes linked to cycle-based last mile services, testing low-cost mobile micro hubs in cooperation with cycle logistics companies, and promoting strategies or incentives for shared micro hubs, which can be used by different logistics operators. Point 6 of the strategy is securing and providing space for parcel stations. This measure is primarily for the use of residents, although it can also be adopted for use by small businesses. In this instance, when ordering items, the buyer can indicate that the delivery should be made to a drop box rather than a home delivery address or business. When a delivery company, either a traditional carrier or a cycle logistics operator, makes a delivery to the secure locker, a text is then sent to the recipient, indicating the delivery has been made and providing a code to open the locker. As per the micro-consolidation sites from the previous slide, the municipality can help by securing space for parcel stations in policy planning and zoning strategies, identifying and adapting key public space for parking stations linked to cycle-based last mile services, testing parcel stations in cooperation with cycle logistics companies, promoting strategies or incentives for shared use parcel stations. One interesting development is the introduction of personal drop boxes outside front door of a resident's house, which can be used by deliveries companies when the person is not at home. Point 7 of the strategy is the full or part funding of cargo bike purchases by either residents or businesses or both. There have been many successful examples across Europe, including in Vienna, where 50% of purchases up to €800 for a standard cargo bike or €1,000 for an e-bike. They had a €200,000 budget and there were 500 plus applications in the first week. In Oslo, in Norway, they provided a €1,200 credit for an e-cargo bike, covering a maximum of 25% of purchase costs. There were 1,000 grants available and this was a very successful scheme. Early in 2020 in the UK, there was a scheme for municipalities to purchase cargo bikes for both their own use and to provide them to local businesses. The budget of €1.6 million will be used to purchase over 270 e-cargo bikes, which will be deployed across 16 local authorities in the country. Point 8 is a relatively easy and low-cost action and involves the promotion of cargo bikes to citizens. What is envisaged here is supporting and promoting public tryout shows. At a tryout show, citizens should be provided with the opportunity to test ride a cargo bike. Likewise, supporting and promoting school tryout shows involving test rides for parents and children. Subsidised or free cargo bike training. Supporting mobility community groups. Cycling for all ages schemes, and organising critical mass rides. Similar promotional events can be organised for local businesses where existing users of cargo bikes can talk about their experiences, and local retailers can be on hand to promote their various cargo bikes they have to sell. Strategy point 9 is the introduction of cargo bike hire schemes. This is where the municipality sets up cargo bike hire schemes for either local residents or businesses, or both citizens and businesses. There are many examples, including Carvelo to Go scheme in cities in Switzerland and the Tink initiative in cities in Germany. Another example includes the cargo bike library in Edinburgh, Scotland, which has a range of different cargo bikes and trikes with different carrying capabilities, which is offered to local businesses to try out and see if they can be used in their business operations. And finally, strategy point 10 is the preparation of psychologistics friendly tenders. Municipalities frequently have to write tender documents to procure businesses services where they do not have the internal resources to provide the service. Typically, any tenders involving transport will normally be written assuming a van or lorry is the only solution. The tender might include questions such as price per mile to be charged or type of fuel the vehicle will be using. These types of questions are not applicable to a cycle-based solution. Municipalities should actively be encouraged to split tenders into smaller areas, for example, those routes which could be serviced by cargo bikes and those where a van or lorry is more suitable. Likewise, respondents should be encouraged to submit joint supplier solutions. From our experience, municipalities can be sceptical about whether a cargo bike can be actually used to undertake certain tasks, but they should be prepared to run a pilot to prove the concept. And finally, don't be constrained by conventional thinking regarding tenders. Think outside the box, as they say. Thank you for listening. As I said, my name's Gary Armstrong and my email address is there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Armstrong. Well, since we do want to stick to the schedule, we'll debate any possible questions any of you might have during the discussion. But all this talk of bikes did remind me of an old joke. So why didn't the bicycle cross the road? Does anybody know? It was too tired. I hope that made at least some of you chuckle a little bit. I would like to thank all our guests for their insight into a topic that is really starting to get talked about more and more with time. Next up is a 30-minute lunch break. We will follow with the discussion we mentioned before, but before we head out, I'll switch back to Slovenian and do a quick summary and some logging in details for our participants. Torej, hvala vsem, kot omenjeno sledi odmor za malico, 30 minut imate časa, da se malo sprehodite ali pa ob malici premeljete še, kaj vse bi želeli predebatirati in vprašati tekom diskusije, ki bo sledila ob 12:30. V klepet je bila malo prej dodana povezava za posamezne skupine, preko katerih lahko dostopate torej do skupin za diskusijo. Lepo bi prosila, da se torej, še preden se razbežimo po kavicah, na hitro prijavite v izbrano skupino, lahko si jo izberete sami. V skupino vas bo potem naša tehnična podpora spustila malo pred začetkom same diskusije. Prosila bi pa tudi, da se prijavite že zdaj, bo tako lažje tudi vam. V eni skupini bo diskusijo vodila gospa Mateja Kukovec, tu bosta tudi gospod Steklačič in gospod Nüsmüller. Drugo skupino pa bo vodila gospa Andreja Kuzmanič, pridružila se ji bosta gospod Degenkamp in gospod Armstrong. Upam, da ste si pripravili vprašanja, če ne, imate zdaj še malce časa, da to storite. Medtem, ko se prijavljate, vam lahko še omenim, da boste po zaključku današnje delavnice na e-naslov prijeli e-pošto z anketo. Prosim, jo izpolnite z vašim iskrenim mnenjem, se lahko na tak način vsakič ponudimo boljše vsebine. Upam, da ste se vsi uspeli že prijaviti. Če ima kdo težave, prosim zapišite v klepet in kontaktirala vas bo naša tehnična ekipa. Tatjana se na tej točki poslavljam. S preostankom ekipe pa se ponovno vidite in za spremembo tudi slišite ponovno čez pol ure. Želim vam uspešno diskusijo in lep dan še naprej. Pa dober tek.